Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. As always, I am joined by my co-host Umir, who's a professional football scout and analyst, and today we're here to cover Garnacho's potential move to Chelsea. Okay, welcome back to the channel. This has been a kind of long-awaited signing in terms of Chelsea. It feels like Chelsea have been waiting for Garnacho, Garnacho's been waiting for Chelsea, and we've now reached sort of the climax point of the window where things start to, get moving a bit recklessly maybe. So we're here to talk about this signing. I think the Chelsea fan sentiment over this signing is not amazing, and there are, viable reasons and concerns for Chelsea fans to have. We're here to give you a balanced view on Garnacho to Chelsea, so we are going to cover both positive and negatives, and believe it or not, there are positives for Chelsea in this signing, but we are going to cover the wide range of negatives around this signing to do with obviously where he fits in, where his best position is, can Chelsea accommodate for him, and so on. But just off the rip, do you want to get into sort of what you make of Garnacho as a player, sort of the situation with Manchester United and what Chelsea could be getting their hands on?
Yeah, look, the situation with United, we know that after the Europa League final, there was this falling out. Ruben Amorim, in front of the rest of the squad, very publicly said, look, you're not in my plans, you need to find a new club. So I think after you've said that, you can't reintegrate a player like that just for your own leadership and just to kind of prove that what you say really sticks at your club. So Garnacho, we know, has looked for and has been kind of touted to various clubs this window. Yeah. He wants a club in the Premier League. He wants a club at the highest level within the Premier League. So Chelsea looks to be the most likely destination. As a player, I know, look, you're a United fan and United fans rightly have some criticisms to say about him. I think from my perspective, I will always try and look at the positives in a player and see where they can fit in general. And Garnacho, for me, is a player who, for the fees described, I think is a better player than what you're paying for. Look, I know there's question marks around his quality and the fee in general, but I think for a player like that, the amount of goals and assists that he does guarantee, even though he does miss chances, and we'll talk about that going forward in this video, look, I think you're paying for, you're probably getting a bit of a bargain in this situation. And teams are probably staying away for a variety of reasons, but his off-ball quality, his ability to find space in the box, his ability to relentlessly run, his availability and the amount of appearances that he does play season on season gone by, the fact that he is very physical, the fact that he can come off the bench as well and he can give you some quality in transition situations. For me, Chelsea's biggest strength has been signing various tactical profiles that can answer different questions. And I think Garnacho gives you something that Gittins doesn't, that gives you something that perhaps Xavi Simons doesn't. So it's about the variety, and I think there are positives that we can get into.
We're now going to go into Alejandro Garnacho's data per season. So we're pretty much going to exclude the 21-22 season where he only made 2 appearances consisting of 12 minutes. But in the next 3 seasons, we can see that I've colour-coded it, so the red stats are obviously the worst in the last 3 seasons, per 90. At the middle, obviously orange, we can see that his stats are sort of the second best, and then the green are the ones that are the best since he's broke through. Now we can see sort of a pretty decent progression, so goals, assists, shots per 90, chance created per 90, and most importantly, his appearances have gone like that, up and up and up per season, which is showing sort of an actual gradual development in his game at Manchester United, which a lot of fans of Manchester United would say isn't the case, because they would say he's actually getting worse because he's playing more. And this is where I wanted to speak to you about. Garnacho's probably suffered through sort of being heavily reliant on in the squad, relied on in the squad. So last season he played 58 games across all competitions at Manchester United. At 21 years old, a player should not be doing that. And I think Manchester United fans have noticed the burnout in his quality and what he offered you. I remember when he scored a goal at Craven Cottage in the last minute, he'd come off the bench, he was relentless, he was attacking, he took Manchester United up a gear, moved legs, and against tired legs, he's incredible. And I still think at Manchester United, it was a genuine possibility for him to be someone who could come off the bench as an impact sub, be sharper than the rest, and kick on and, kind of turn the gears up a little bit. And I will always say that about Manchester United, especially last season, when we had stagnant possession, stagnant in front of goal, who was the ball we could give to accelerate our movement a little bit. It was always really Garnacho or Bruno who could either pick a pass out from somewhere, take someone down the line, just put a little bit of, inject pace into the game.
Force the issue.
Just force the issue, inject some pace into the game. And I think one of the reasons why Garnacho isn't widely rated for that is probably because he's so scruffy on the ball. And now that can be a good thing and a bad thing, but I think aesthetics do play a lot of, importance in terms of fans generally rating players, and he's not aesthetically pleasing to watch, but what he is efficient. And not in front of goal. In front of goal he's a very, very patchy finisher, but it's not doubting that he's getting into the right spaces, which we'll speak about later. But just going back to this graphic, we can actually see that the stats that have gone up are the ones I mentioned before, but the ones that have gone down per season are actually his goals minus XG, which is basically measuring how good he is in front of goal, and his dribbles completed per 90. His dribbles completed per 90 have gone from 2.6 per 90 to 1.2. So his dribbling quality in terms of success rate has actually been cut in half, or more than half. So I think, personally, that both of them could be very much influenced by the amount of burnout. I think he's played way too much games. He's played 144 games in all competitions for Manchester United. That's a ridiculous amount of games over the last 3 or 4 seasons, and that's not good enough for, players who are 28. There's players like Diogo Dalot, Bruno, who have played like 40, 50 games, and they don't really burn out. You can't do that at 18, 19, 20,
also
20. You can't do that.
The style of play is he's making continuous runs in behind the back line of defence all game, and he doesn't stop doing that even if he is tired. So that's going to add up, certainly. And
I just want to, throw this on to you now with this one stat. So, since making his debut for Manchester United on the 28th of April 2022, he ranks 3rd for appearances, 3rd for goal involvements, 3rd for goals, and 2nd for assists at the club in all competitions. That is a player who, in a dysfunctional side at a young age, has been one of the most consistent, productive performers. So what would you make of, do you think Manchester United are right to look to sell this player? Do you think Chelsea are right to look to buy the player?
Look, if you're talking about Manchester United and their opinion, I think after that falling out with Ruben Amorim, you've got to get rid. Just because if you want that culture in the squad to retain that level that you're trying to set it at, then you can't have anyone that has a disagreement with kind of the higher ups, unless you manage it or mitigate it in a certain way. But I think that their relationship is too fraught. So at this point, you've got to get rid. In terms of Garnacho, how he perceives himself, I think if you're a player who at that age is putting up, 2nd or 3rd most goal output in the last couple of seasons, and you're 20, 21 years old, and then you're not playing all of the games, or you're not perhaps appreciated in a way that you think you deserve to be, then I understand in part why he might get frustrated given his role over the last season. I do think when you've got players who have cost 60, 70 or so million pounds in this United squad who are producing far less than Garnacho has, then look, Garnacho in that situation needs to be relied upon because he's producing quality. And in that sense, I feel like, he sometimes gets hard done by given general opinion, because it's not easy for a player of that age to put up, I think, is it double digits in goals and assists of the season just gone by?
Yeah, so 21 goals and assists last season, which is his most in any season of his career, beat his 2nd best season by 6. And his most productive season in terms of individually.
And you compare him to players who are signed for 50, 60 million, like really exciting players, and fans will get really excited about players who produce far less. Savinho is a player linked to Spurs at the moment, at the time of recording, who's a brilliant footballer, and we know that at Girona he put up really strong goal and assist seasons, but at Manchester City, 1 goal, 8 assists last season in I think 28 or 29 appearances. He's a player valued at 60 or 70 million, who any team would be really excited about signing. Garnacho, with the numbers that he put up in all competitions,
they'd appreciate him less.
They'd appreciate him less, and I think that's partly down to aesthetics, like you mentioned, partly down to his style, and also because he is very visibly a poor finisher at
like
times.
Glaring misses. But I know you like to make the comparison between Sterling.
Well, Sterling's the perfect example of it, in my opinion, because whenever you look at Manchester City during their best seasons, Sterling would put up 15, 20, 25 goal seasons, and fans for Manchester City would still criticise him because he missed big chances in games. But the fact is, sheer numbers and being in the right areas will win you more games than missing big chances whilst doing so. A lot of players don't get in those areas to miss those chances in the first instance, and they're putting up half of the goal output that Garnacho is in a season. So I understand why fans would be frustrated by a player like that. But I also say across the season, there's massive value in guaranteeing 10 goals for any attacker.
Yeah, if you wanted to have a touch of the board and just be like, where would he fit in and where would Chelsea see the best of him in their shape? Because if I'm being honest, I'm going to play the Chelsea negative fan towards the signing. I look at Jamie Gittins, I look at Cole Palmer, I look at both the strikers who've signed, I look at potentially getting Xavi Simons, I look at Pedro Neto, Esteval. Where's he going to play?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I think the value in Garnacho, we'll just use red counters, for example, to illustrate where he might set up in the Chelsea side. We know Chelsea often like to play 5 across the back line. He can play both sides, so he can play left and right. If he plays on the right, he gives you a right-footed cutback, especially with a Cole Palmer in the side. That right foot, left foot combination opens up a lot of sort of angles to create with. And that reverse pass into a Garnacho in here, like you mentioned, off camera, he's got a great cutback on both sides, right side and left side. So immediately he gives you that option as just a pure running right-sided player with the right foot who can provide cutbacks. Generally, I think he's best used in off of the left, and off the left side, there's various ways that you can utilize him. He's not the best 1v1 against an opposition, but he can kind of force them back. If he does do that, then you can suddenly get a few players involved and either lay it off to them or lay it off to one of the defenders on this side, and then his movement again into these areas is a really smart way to utilize him. We know Enzo plays the dink passes. If this is a Xavi Simons, he can do the exact same when Garnacho moves off the ball, and we know his box movement is brilliant, so you can imagine him crushing the box here if you've got a Neto or someone like that on that side. I will say these are all situations where Chelsea are having the ball, penning teams in, but as we saw against many top sides last season, Garnacho's best quality came for Manchester United in transition situations where he would be perhaps inside left, linking off of your number 9, whether that's a Delap, for example, in games where you want someone to make it stick, pass it to this player running in behind, or pass it to a Cole Palmer who can find Garnacho running in behind. Those transition situations make a really strong case for kind of playing him in general. And then lastly, like you mentioned, in super sub situations where Chelsea might be winning 1 or 2-0, they'll pen teams in to begin with, but once they're sat in themselves, if you want to launch long to a fresh Garnacho with a lot to prove, who wants to play at the highest level, then you can certainly imagine him getting big chances and relieving some of that pressure as an outlet in general.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to sort of the disrespect he's had towards his output and his actual productiveness, or productivity rather, in front of goal. So in the European Big 5 leagues, in all competitions since the 28th of April 2022, when Garnacho made his debut, there are only 2 players under the age of 21 who have had more goals and assists than him. Them players being Cherki and Yamal, who are obviously 2 of the best. After him, Doué, Savinho, Matthias Tell, Jamie Gittins, Malik Fofana, Arda Güler, Kenan Yildiz. If you actually looked at that list and you went through every single player, he would probably be universally the least rated of players on that list.
By fans.
By fans, do you know what I mean? By fans in general. But
it's not easy to score that many goals for a dysfunctional side.
I just think it's really harsh, and I want to reiterate to Chelsea fans, I said this to him here off camera, he's not a player I would have done everything to get rid of. Obviously, the situation's got to a point where we have to sort of cut ties, and Amorim doesn't want him. Garnacho's,
doesn't want to stay probably.
Yeah, doesn't want to stay, and there's massive grey areas with the deal in terms of sort of the social media antics. We're not going to comment too much about it because we're outsiders. We don't know enough about it. But if that has played into it, then fair enough. But Chelsea have apparently done their due diligence, haven't found anything wrong in terms of red flags that have cropped up. So clearly they think that's completely fine. But being third on a goals and assists table like that with some of the best young talent around him, and probably being universally the least rated of them, I don't know what it is.
I think it goes back to my point about off-ball stuff being less appreciated by the general fan, which is fine. You're watching what happens on the ball. Yeah. Secondarily, aesthetics. He's not the most flashy dribbler. A Savinho or a Doku, as a Manchester City fan, look brilliant in terms of how they attack players and how they get in behind, but they lack some of that final ball quality, and they're still generally really well rated. And then the last thing is the finishing quality is a visibly poor finisher in big moments, but because he's finding himself getting those chances and forcing those chances for himself 3 or 4 times in certain games and missing a couple or 2 or 3 times, even if he gets 1 goal, you only need 1 goal to kind of make the difference. And fans kind of see the 3 misses more than the 1 goal.
Yeah. I think what Chelsea are probably looking at is potentially a very decent market opportunity. Again, it sort of fits into what they're doing with the young players. I do think this is probably where I would say the squad building has stockpiled a little bit too much, because now you've got potentially 2 players in your forward 5 positions who all really want to start. And I don't doubt that, for me, I think Jamie Gittins offers more than Garnacho in this Chelsea team for what Chelsea want. I'm just looking at what Chelsea need from their attackers and their wingers and the centre forwards, and they have got 2 very good options in each position. But I'm looking at Garnacho, who's played 50 games the season before last, 58 games this season, has probably had clashes in the dressing room when he's not played as much as he wants to, which is insane because he's already playing so many minutes. And I just look at Chelsea, a bit like, from a squad building point of view, when you could attend to maybe the central defence, somewhere a bit more, keeper. I just don't understand it from a Chelsea perspective. I understand the market opportunity.
From the business perspective.
From the business perspective, I don't. I do, sorry, but from the actual playing on the pitch, managing all the talent, I'm not too sure. And negatively speaking about Garnacho, we've mentioned a lot of positives. I don't think he's a good 1v1 dribbler. In fact, he has the lowest dribble success rate out of any Chelsea winger who played last season and the ones that have come in this season. By far, I think it's 14% less than the second worst. He's got a 16% times tackled during a take-on, more than the second worst. So he's not a very efficient dribbler. We've talked about how his dribbles success rate has gone down by over half over the last 3 seasons. Again, that could be the burnout. And I actually think, obviously, the goals and assists that he's scored for his age category, I don't think any of them players would have played near enough minutes as him. So maybe that is why he's got such a good goal output. But that's not a stick to beat him with, because he's so robust, so available. And he does apply himself generally on the pitch pretty well. He
never stops running.
Never stops running. And he had kind of if anyone's watched Ted Lasso, he has the goldfish attribute, which is, if you fail a take on, just try again. And he's not efficient.
I really like players like that.
He's not efficient, but mentally he's tough to keep going. And he wasn't, like I said, he wasn't one of them players I was going into the summer looking to sell. I honestly, he wasn't for me. And I don't like seeing it with academy products anyway. I know we come from Atletico Madrid, but I'm just talking, we've seen him in Carrington come through, handled him since he was a kid. But obviously what's happened has happened and he's got to go. But I'm not disappointed. He should have been handled better. Under Erik ten Hag, he was played. I think he actually played like 45 games in a row, started for Manchester United. I swear to God, I think it was close to that. And why that ever happened with a player of his age, with his skill set.
People are trying to keep their jobs.
I guess so. But you can now see almost a toll that's taken or took on him, because he's really lacking the power. He doesn't look as fast as he used to look. He's not getting injuries yet, but if the injuries start to creep up, you know why. So
I think it's the right move for him as well.
I think it's a good fresh start for him. I'm just quite disappointed as to how we've got in this position again with a young player that's just been burnt out, managed a little bit poorly, and obviously he's having conflict with the club. And I never like seeing that happen. Some people might call me soft or whatever in football, but I just don't like seeing it.
But that's the whole point in terms of why they're trying to build this new culture of Manchester United.
Because, it's very true.
It certainly bleeds through to the performances as well.
But go on. Just off the top, are you a fan of this? Go on.
Well, I'm a fan of Garnacho as a footballer. Squad building wise, I have the same general concerns, but in my opinion, I kind of hope that he takes this opportunity to kind of force his way into the squad and accept that, look, I'm not playing for a team that's battling lower down the league. I'm playing for a team that's competing higher up the league. I'm not going to get as many minutes, but the trade-off is I'll be able to play for a higher quality team. I think the structured, choreographed build-up of a Maresca side, and I know they go in between, but the structured, choreographed build-up will suit a player like Garnacho in general, who likes to kind of break out and be a bit more free, often
Yeah.
to his detriment. I think the continuous running quality that he has will benefit off of the passing quality of a Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez, perhaps the Javi Simmons as well. And those passes need runners off the ball, so that quality comes into play again there. And for the fee, mentioned 30, 40, 45, even up to 50, I think you're getting a player who can produce reliable output in terms of raw numbers, maybe not efficiency-wise. That's really worth it because players are going for a lot more who can produce far less in terms of goal output. So, look, there are certainly question marks, like you mentioned, and I think there's better areas that they can address. But as an individual footballer, I think he has a lot of potential. And if any team can kind of coax that potential out of him, you're looking at a £70 million player.
Yeah, I think one of the things when you were just talking, then I just couldn't stop thinking about Madueke.
Yeah.
And just thinking,
because
he's a very good player. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
I think it's 55 million in the end, wasn't it,
Yeah.
or 50 million?
Yeah.
And I'm looking, if they get Garnacho for 30, 40 million,
Yeah.
and he puts up a similar output to him, I'm not saying he's going to, but he could, and has probably proven to over his career so far. Then would Chelsea be looking at that as a good return on investment for selling him?
And then you sell him again for 60 million.
Yeah.
I don't like that model.
I
honest,
don't like it. I think obviously it's what they're trying to do. We've seen it with Dewsbury Hall, kind of seen it with a couple more players, but I understand what the model is.
Yeah, you keep the top tier players. But I think Madueke would have been a really good player to keep.
Yeah.
But,
Because I think if they sign Garnacho for 50 million, for me, I know they don't play on the same side, preferably, but I wouldn't have let Madueke go for 50 million if you're going to bring Garnacho in for 50.
Yeah.
I would probably just say, why have you done that switcheroo?
Yeah.
That's just from me, from like a team building POV.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you have to think that they've sold players. They're still to sell or move on Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
João Felix has gone as well. So you can almost say Gittins and Madueke are the swap, and then Garnacho is coming in for some of these other players who are going.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
But they've got rid of so many that money-wise it doesn't really.
No, doesn't matter. No, but yeah, a really, really interesting one. And I must say, for Chelsea fans, in my opinion, I think he's a decent player. I think he's a good squad player. I don't think he's the best to watch on the eye. No. But what I think he is he's scrappy and he makes things work and he forces the issue. I
think a manager might like him, but fans might not.
Yeah, I think he strikes me as one of them players who plays for a manager religiously, but the fans never get on board. Yeah. I don't know, man. I wish him the best. I don't really know. I just don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I just don't know how to feel about it. I'm I don't know what's happened. Like no one said anything about what's happened.
Yeah.
Like he got rid of out of the squad when he went to the Etihad and we beat City, and Diallo scored, and like they got rid of Rashford and Garnacho from the squad. We never really heard why, but we said it was like lifestyle things.
Yeah.
Garnacho come back, Rashford didn't. Then Garnacho played a lot, didn't play the Europa League final, and then went to an interview and kicked off, and then apparently Amorim went, all right, so. But I don't understand how we've got to the point. Like, it's just mental. Like, so what's happened?
Yeah.
Like Garnacho, like United fans actually used to sing about him last season. So what's going on? Like, what happened?
I think it's a complete behind-the-scenes thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Whether or not we know, or we ever will find out, I don't know. But I'm just baffled.
Yeah.
I'm just really baffled by it, and.
I think the most frustrating thing will be if he fulfills that potential.
Yeah, and it's
knowing what he is showing in parts, because you've done so much of the development for whoever he goes to.
Yeah. Well, we've done all of it. So, no, anyway, but thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and follow the channel. And let us know what you make of Garnacho's potential move to Chelsea. And we'll see you next week on The Breakdown. Thank you.